Hi everyone, my name is Lucy Lynn. I'm the founder of Forestlyn, and welcome to the Emerging Technology for Beginners video series. I've got a very exciting guest for us today. This is Brett Robertson. He's from South Africa via Perth, and now we're currently in Sydney. He's the official Ethereum Cat Herdler, and today we're going to learn all about project management and decentralization. So I think we're going to be in for some learnings. So first and foremost, Brent, I'd like to ask how your story. So what did you actually study at school, and what did you want to be when you grew up?
I was raised in Johannesburg, South Africa, and growing up, I wanted to be a scientist. I somehow thought that scientists were really cool, and wearing a white gown made you even smarter or something like that. I didn't know what kind of scientist, I just wanted to be a scientist. And so that was always my dream. It was either that or policeman. I think policeman probably left when I was about 10.
Two very different things, Brent.
Yeah, police scientist. Oh, that would make me forensic guy maybe. Oh, my real calling.
It's never too late, I guess.
So I studied the usual things at school. I went down the mathematics routes and landed up going to university. Not by choice, really. I wanted to go and study medicine, and my university of choice never accepted me, so I thought I'd take a year off. And instead had a big argument with my dad, I think in February, and the university starts in the Southern Hemisphere at the beginning of the year, and I managed to walk into university and ask if there was any place for me. I'd missed Freshers Week and everything like that, and the university said, I'd go speak to Commerce, and Commerce said, no, we've got no space for you, we're full. And they said, have you spoken to the science faculty? And I was like, science faculty? I thought I was just going to university. You just speak to the university, are you full or not? Anyway, I went up to the science faculty, spoke to the dean of the faculty, showed him my grades. He signed me up. He even gave me a massive big bursary that covered me for the whole first year of my degree. And then once we'd signed it all up, he said, okay, what do you want to study? And I looked at the list, and there wasn't a hell of a lot that I wanted to study there. I didn't want to go and do chemistry and obstetrician or whatever, even though I wanted to be a scientist when I was a little kid. I'd grown out of that. And I saw computer science and mathematics, and I thought, well, computer science is always going to be very useful in your life. I can always change later on. And I ended up doing a computer science degree.
Wow, it sounds like you're an accidental student. Not only were you super late, but you got your entire tuition paid for, and you fell into computer science. That's pretty lucky. I think you've got luck on your side. Right?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I was very lucky. My dad always likes to joke that I fall with my bum in the butter. That's a expression back from South Africa, I guess. But yeah, from there I finished up university. Again, very lucky. I went to go work over in London. I managed to get myself a 5-year working visa over there, working for an investment bank, which was brilliant. It was one of the best things that could have happened, really, because I got to travel a hell of a lot, got to learn a lot about finance, got to just, I guess, grow up in a really cool city.
Nice. Yeah, I did time in London as well, and I think most of my friends in London were other Australians and South Africans, so we definitely represented London quite a bit.
Absolutely. I met my wife who's an Australian, and yeah, where does South African and Australian meet but in London?
Of course. So after you spent 5 years in investment banking, how did you come down the Ethereum route, and how did you get yourself into blockchain?
Yeah, I was very lucky. I had some friends at work. I'd moved to, by this stage, I'd moved to Perth, Australia, and I was working as a project manager in IT, and some of the guys I was working with were incredibly smart people, specifically in the Unix and database area. And one of the Unix administrators approached me and started talking to me about Bitcoin, and I thought he was kind of crazy because I thought this was something for like Second Life or some sort of AI game or whatever. And he was just really excited about it, writing articles and trying to earn money and coding and earning a bit of Bitcoin on the side. And he actually mentioned the selling of the pizza for the 2 pizzas for all that Bitcoin, and he said it's real. People are actually buying things with it, and he was excited about it and seemed to be quite a new nascent technology. So to really appease him, he helped me buy some Bitcoin, and I went and duly put it on a laptop that I then rebuilt and lost that Bitcoin, which I kind of kicked myself on after when it went to $1,000. But that was my first experience, and then I kind of forgot about it.
What year was that, Brent?
That was like 2011, 2012, maybe.
Yeah.
When did the pizza thing happen?
I think about 2012
Yeah,
or so. 20.
I know it had just happened, so whenever the pizza thing happened.
So it's a famous story, I guess, in the space that two pizzas from Papa John's were sold, which is the equivalent now to how much? How many million?
I think it was like 10,000 Bitcoin or something. So it was an insane amount of money now. About $50 million.
Oh, geez, for two Papa John pizzas, okay. So from there, you discovered Bitcoin. You've then forgotten about it, you said, and then how did you get back into it?
Yeah. So life carried on. As I said, I was married and I had a very young family, and I was enjoying being a father and doing my work and so on. And then my brother-in-law actually approached me, and he said to me, "Have a read of this," and it was the Ethereum white paper. And I read it and I said, if this kid, Vitalik, is able to do half of what he's proposing in this white paper, it's going to be a very exciting project. It's worth looking further into. And then he said, they're actually going to have a crowd sale. And I was like, okay, and I kind of thought that maybe it was going to be like any other crowd sale at the time, a bit of a Kickstarter. You give some money, and if you're lucky, maybe you'll get a prototype or a T-shirt or something like that. But they were selling this thing called Ethereum, which was kind of like Bitcoin. I understood what Bitcoin was, so I said, okay, well, this might be a bit of a nice little play. And so I got involved with the ICO. And then from there, I did a lot of reading and had a little bit of fun. We started a Facebook group for Western Australians. There's a meetup. Perth was a bit of a happening place for Ethereum in the early days. One of the first 81 meetups to actually start in the Ethereum world. And so we moved from that, and basically I guess I was a passive observer for a majority of the time. And I remember Beijing, the Beijing DevCon conference happened, and I wanted to go to that, and said, probably not at the moment, too busy with family and life and so on. But I kind of kicked myself because it was so close, Australia is so far away. So the next year I went to Cancun, and I met some really excellent people there. And some of these guys I've stayed in touch with and become very good friends with. And they went on to really get involved in the crypto space in general. Some guys went into the Web3 Foundation, or one of the guys did. One of the other guys is involved in networking. One guy's building a dev project. Another guy's involved in gaming and dev and so on. So, it was just exciting. I'm seriously excited about Ethereum and the opportunity it offers in changing the way we use the web. And so in 2018, in November, I went to my second DevCon conference in Prague. And I kind of just had this burning feeling that I really was loving this space. I was excited about what they were trying to achieve and what they were doing. And I wanted to actually get more actively involved. And whilst my computer science degree was there, I've never really been a programmer. And so I didn't feel as though I was going to be the most beneficial as a programmer. There's a lot of smarter kids than me that code better than I do. But whilst I was at the Status Hackathon, Lane Rettig actually stood up and he said, he's part of the core Ethereum team. He said, we're looking for people that can help us coordinate and facilitate the Ethereum project and help move it forward a little bit. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was a project manager and program manager, and I thought, geez, this is a sign. I stuck my hand up and said, please choose me. Went through a little bit of a mini interview with Hudson Jamison, another one of the core team, and I started working with the Ethereum Cat Herders in January this year. So it's been a bit of a journey. I'm finally here, but I'm loving it. And I guess having had a bit of a background and followed the whole Ethereum story from beginning to end, I feel like I'm entrenched, but really I'm only just a newbie.
There you go. That's quite a journey that you've come from being an
Yeah.
investor in the crowd sale to
Yeah.
now working for them. So yeah, so it's quite cool. For the beginners in the audience, let's talk a little bit about Ethereum. You talk about how much you're passionate about the project, but for the ones who don't really know the space, because this is a beginner audience, can you talk a little bit about the problem that Ethereum is looking to solve, or what the decentralization is looking to solve as well?
Absolutely. So I mean, I guess everyone's kind of heard of the idea of Bitcoin and how it solved the double spend problem. And Ethereum is kind of taking that a little bit further and saying we're looking at a currency in the ether that's not necessarily used in Ethereum for just being a payment mechanism like Bitcoin is. Basically, what Ethereum's trying to do, if you like, is be the new programming language for the Web3, the new Samsung smartphone, if you like, with all the apps built on top of it, and it's the base layer on which the new web will be built. And the reason why it's exciting, because I mean, we can all argue that what's wrong with Web 2 now. Facebook seems to work pretty awesome, Twitter works pretty awesome, Uber works pretty awesome. A lot of the problem with these global giant internet companies now is that they control your data. They are the ones that are the middlemen, they're the third parties, and we have to interact with them. If they go down, we can't post our awesome photos of cats or whatever we do in our spare time, and that's a bit of a problem. And so what the Ethereum project is trying to do is trying to decentralize that. We've got the decentralized network in the internet, and now we're going to build the decentralized programming layer for the internet, where we don't have to rely on third parties anymore to offer us a service. We can potentially take our own data, which we now own, and go and take it somewhere else to another third party, for example. So, I mean, the simplest example of that I always like to give out for friends when trying to explain this space is when Ethereum first came along, we had this idea that Ethereum could potentially create a mechanism of creating multiple Ubers. So you have this decentralized Uber that allows you to control your own personal data. And for an Uber driver, the personal data is that star rating. It's the most important thing for him. If he's a 5-star driver, people prefer to go with 5-star drivers. And so as a result, what Ethereum does is it says, well, if you don't like Uber, you can pick up your data and go and move to Lyft or whatever other car company there is. And even then, perhaps someone creates a platform that's just a neutral platform that doesn't charge anything and simply allows you to go pick up people and so on. But you control the data, you control the story of who you are as a car driver. And there's other things that are kind of exciting about Ethereum too, in the sense that it's looking to bring power back to the people. I think the Ethereum story is more around the story of Web 3. And what is Web 3? I mean, everyone's perhaps spoken about the World Wide Web, and we all know that a guy over in England called Tim Berners-Lee created it. And it was meant to be a free and open society, I guess, online, that you could create your own thing and do your own thing. And what's happened is that the corporate giants have come along and kind of taken it over, and you trying to create and do your own thing really doesn't exist. Even now to a point where things like YouTube are censoring what you can post, and even deciding whether you're going to make money or not from that post. So what Ethereum is doing is I kind of look at it like the old medieval fiefdoms and the kingdoms and so on, where you had the lords of the land. That's the Googles and the Facebooks and the Ubers and everything, and they control all the land on the internet. And Ethereum's basically saying, well, we're going to rewrite the Magna Carta, and we're going to give everybody the opportunity to own a piece of that land. so that going forward, you will own your own identity. You'll own your own photographs, you'll own your own videos, you'll own your own medical history. Everything will be yours in your little piece of land on the internet, and you can then take parts of that data and go and share it with whoever you feel is appropriate. So if you want to plug into the local government's medical schemes and so on, you can take your own personal data and share it with the medical application that the government set up. Or if you've decided you want to become a rock star and you write great music, you can take your music and post it on an application that allows you to earn 0.1 of a cent for every time your song's played. So now you know every time someone listens to your song, you're going to earn 0.1 of a cent. And if you write a Gangnam Style song, YouTube's not going to make all the money. You are, which is exciting. It's putting the power of the internet back into the hands of the people.
Yeah, and I think that is really interesting because it's not just the internet, it's personal data. And I think right now privacy, access, data is such a huge thing. And I think people are starting to really understand that we are the ones who should be in control of our own data. And I think that's also why, as you say, decentralization is so important and why it is an important movement, because it gives the control back to the individuals, not control by different brands or different corporations. Like, they would need to ask us for permission rather than just automatically take that control away from us, which is what I'm excited about when it comes to decentralization.
Yeah, exactly right. And it does allow you to do exactly that, where I guess in today's society we're very conscious of the fact that we do have Big Brother. And he does watch over our shoulders a lot of the time. There's a lot more CCTV cameras which are generally in public spaces, and we kind of accept them because they are public spaces. We don't own them. But a home is sacred and always has been sacred. And to enter, get a police officer to enter your home, they generally need a warrant or something to come and enter your property. But we've lost a little bit of that right on the internet. Because we've got anybody who's got the sophistication or the power of a government, for example, to be able to look into what we're saying on our emails, look into what we're saying on our SMSs, listening to phone conversations, and that's without a warrant.
Yeah, no, fascinating stuff. So you talked about some of the use cases that Ethereum could look to try and solve some of these items. You know, you talked about some land rights and identity. Can you tell us maybe one or two of the more interesting projects that you think has great impact, I guess, in this space? So it's like use cases and also impact.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, one of the projects that I'm a big fan of is a project specifically with regards to identity and who you are as an individual. I guess it kind of links up to what I was saying previously. Everyone at the moment kind of plays third fiddle to the large organisation, but a project like, for example, Uport, created by Consensus, is something that potentially allows you to control your own identity on the web, and you become a physical presence on the web, which means that you can decide how you wish to present yourself on the web and what data you wish to have people see of yourself on the web. And that's where it allows you to link in, for example, with the Uber car company, or the future Uber car company, that you can have your own little identity that says, I'm a 5-star driver, and you can unplug your data from Uber and plug it into Lyft or plug it into a future car company. If they offer you a promotion that says if you're a 5-star guy, you get an extra 10%, well, that sounds like a genius move. I'll just unplug that data. It's a little bit harder for something like Facebook, where if you want to unplug your data and put it into something else, well, what is the something else? There's nothing really other than Facebook. So that allows more opportunities for other organizations to come along and offer something better than Facebook and use a similar protocol, if you like, which allows you to take your data and plug it into their interface, and everything comes up again. And what's even more exciting is that potentially in the future we have, because we're using standard structure protocols on the base layer, we can potentially have Facebook talking to an Akasha, talking to a future Facebook, if you like. And all these applications talk to each other without you actually having to be on that application. And that's exciting because suddenly we're decentralizing who controls and manages these applications, and we don't land up with single monster monolithic behemoths like Amazon or whatever. We land up with a more decentralized space. So that's one exciting thing about the space. It's not just a case of if we sort out identity, you become more protected. If we sort out identity, the whole world becomes more protected because we have a greater decentralization of the tools that we're using on the web.
Fantastic. Yeah, identity is a massive one. I was thinking about even just, there's a lot of refugees at the moment, and unfortunately they've been pushed out of their own homes, and they could be highly skilled from their own homes. They could be doctors and lawyers and surgeons, and because they've been pushed out quite suddenly, they have no identity when they go to another country.
Absolutely.
And they have to, unfortunately, I think, take up roles like janitors and cleaners and very low admin positions. And I've definitely have seen a lot of unfortunate stories about things like this. But if you have an identity that is recorded and you can take with you, I think it will be eliminating some of these type of issues.
Absolutely right. If we have an international identity, suddenly you're not stuck in this situation where we have national passports and national ID books and national documents and so on that are only relevant to you in that national situation. And I guess we elevate every single country to the same standard. I'm a great proponent for an international society. There's nothing wrong with, I guess, having national patriotism for your own country, especially when it comes to sport. I'm a big rugby fan, and so I love watching the Super Rugby with my teams, and I love watching the Southern Hemisphere rugby and the Northern Hemisphere rugby and so on. And
Surprised you're not at Rugby Sevens right now in Hong Kong.
Yes. Yes, my wife would probably have something to say about that. But yeah, I think I'm hoping in time something like sports will be kind of like what it is now, the place where we do have our little bit of national patriotism, but everyone, the rest of the time, remains a citizen of the world. And having an identity at the same base layer allows everyone to have that citizenship of the world, and hopefully in time it means that travel, for example, is a little bit easier. We're here in Sydney at the moment, and we had people come from all over the world for EdCon, but unfortunately I spoke this morning, and the guy in front of me who was meant to give the talk before me never made it because the visa restriction didn't let him come into the country. And I think that's a rotten shame because we lost out on getting to learn from this bright mind who had something to contribute to the ecosystem.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating. So what about the impacts? We talked about some of the impacts. Do you see the impact? Is there any differences between, say, an emerging country versus, say, a developed country? Is there any other bigger impacts that you think, decentralization, Ethereum is able to provide to everybody else? Is this going to dramatically change the way we live?
I actually see there's potential. As much as perhaps at the moment the developed countries are perhaps jumping more onto the whole Ethereum story at this moment, I actually see the greatest impact happening in the likes of Africa, where at the moment, certainly talking to South Africa, one of the things that happens once a month is they get their social security allowance, and they go and they stand at the ATM and withdraw their social security allowance. Even though they can withdraw it little bit by little bit, they all go and stand and withdraw the whole thing at once, and these massive queues waiting at the ATM. And that's a bit of a problem for South Africa in the sense that one, you don't go and stand at try and withdraw money at the ATM on that day because you're not going to get any. The queue's just going to be too long. But two,
and someone can also rob you as well.
Potentially, absolutely right, like clockwork. They're there first of every month. But also because I guess there's an inherent trust that they like their paper money. They want to have the money, and money in Africa is a big thing. And I'd love to see Ethereum create technology that allows you to trust the money on your telephone. One of the great things about Africa is, whilst the infrastructure may not be perfect, the mobile network's pretty good. And everyone's got a mobile phone. And it's not only a mobile phone, it's generally a smart mobile phone, which means that they can potentially even hurdle some of the technology upgrades that we've had in the West, and adopt newer technology quicker. And so if we can build technology that allows the majority of Africa being unbanked to have a wallet that allows them to interact and accept payments and make payments, and that's just very basic idea, suddenly everyone feels confident that I can leave my money on my wallet. I don't need to carry it around in my pockets and be robbed. And even if I do lose my phone, I still have my little secret key that means I still get to keep my money. And that little bit of, I guess, shift in mindset and so on suddenly means that we've got a society in Africa that is leapfrogged the whole idea of banking into a new idea of you are a self-sovereign entity that controls your own money, and no one can take it from you.
Yeah, Africa's really interesting, and you've been South Africa and would understand firsthand how it is. And yeah, I've worked in the payment space before and definitely heard of M-Pesa, and have seen some of the things that they've done. I think hopefully cryptocurrency will also move towards that direction, and we can make it as easy to use as something like M-Pesa.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the big arguments at the moment, and I guess this is where I say I'm hoping that Ethereum will get there, is that Ethereum at the moment is a great idea. It allows you to build these decentralized applications on top of it, and if you like, be the Swiss Army knife of the blockchain. But at the moment, it's very slow. This is a big issue within Ethereum at the moment. It's about 15 transactions per second, and we need to scale up to the likes of, just for payment mechanism, something like Visa, where they're potentially 70,000 transactions per second. We're nowhere near that at the moment. But there is some cool projects. I mean, one of the cool projects that I really like is the Raiden network. It's a layer 2 solution that uses Ethereum as its layer 1 technology, and where I guess it ensures the security and everything else to make sure there's not a double payment happening on Ethereum. So Ethereum sorts that out. But it's a payment channel, and this payment channel allows you to make transactions at incredible speeds. And where we're looking at Ethereum at the moment and hoping that we're going to scale up to 500 transactions per second in time, 27,000 transactions potentially without privacy and so on. In time, Raiden is going to be millions of transactions per second. And with millions of transactions per second, you don't only allow payments between you and I and everybody else as human beings, we allow something to develop further, and that's the Internet of Things, where technology starts talking to each other, not only to receive payment, but, for example, autonomous cars are coming. And how does an autonomous car talk to another autonomous car, where the two companies are rivals and don't really trust each other? Well, the blockchain is that trustless machine that allows one company to send out a little bit of a transaction to say, I'm going to be turning left into your lane, and the other car slows down to being a courteous driver to allow the other autonomous vehicle to come in front of it. And that's going to happen instantaneously. It's going to happen very quickly. It's going to cost very little to do it. We're talking microcents. And that means that suddenly we have a society where cars can drive around on the streets and not have accidents. And that's really exciting. That's a very basic description, but in future we'll have a lot more exciting things that'll make our lives as human beings a lot easier. God forbid we ever get into AI and they start making decisions for us. But certainly from a
Skynet.
Skynet. Oh, that's a big meme. but certainly from where we are at the moment in terms of just dumb Internet of Things. For example, your car registers as being 5 minutes away, so it's time to turn on the lights and warm up the house with the air conditioner because it's a cold night.
Yeah, and I think it's a convergence of emerging technologies is coming, as you just described. It's a scenario where blockchain meets AI, meets smart cities, meets IoT. So I do think in the future all of this is going to work together. And ideally, that's the future that we're going to be moving towards. And as a consumer, it's going to be so much easier moving forward.
Absolutely. I can't wait for the day when I can vote via my mobile phone instead of having to go wait in a queue to go and vote. That's going to be super exciting.
You're going to miss out on all the sausage sizzles at the schools.
And meeting all the politicians. I'm so excited about that.
So, thank you so much, Brent. We've got some quick questions at the end. First and foremost, what is a cat herder? What are you herdering?
Yeah, I guess I never explained myself when I said I was a cat herder. A cat herder is a project manager. I mean, the story is that it's really hard to get cats to do anything. And as a project manager, it's really hard to get people to do anything. And in a decentralized Ethereum, where it is incredibly hard to get anyone to do anything because they're not geographically in the same location. They don't work necessarily for the Ethereum Foundation. They may work for another corporation that's got their own agenda and ideas and trying to push through their own ideas. They might be a volunteer. I mean, you've got a whole lot of people that are either fully committed, half committed, partially committed, that want to push this ecosystem forward. And so we've got to try and, I guess, bring all of these people together, smooth out the gaps, build a bit of a bridge, and allow the project to move forward a lot quicker and more succinct than perhaps it has over the last few years. That's why we, tongue-in-cheek, called ourselves the Ethereum Cat Herders.
I love it. It's my favourite title so far.
I love being able to tell people I'm an Ethereum Cat Herder.
They're like, what?
Exactly.
What's your favourite piece of technology that you can't live without?
My favourite piece of technology that I can't live without, I don't know. I guess like everybody, probably a mobile phone. If you ask my wife, I'll wake up and it's glued to my hand and my face for the full 16 hours of being awake until I go back to sleep. And she could ask for anything and I'll say yes, because I don't know what she asked for because I'm so focused on my phone.
Dear oh dear, we need to take that off your phone, take your hands from some point.
Yeah, my hands are sweating at the moment.
What is a piece of technology that you can't wait to see in the future?
I think one of the things I'm really excited to see come through over the next little while is decentralized storage. Decentralized storage is going to finally allow us to actually start building these decentralized applications, and I guess decentralized computers as well. But something like Filecoin that's being worked on at the moment, or Storage, these guys are basically trying to decentralize where we put our data. And if we're decentralizing the data, that means that we can build cool things like decentralized emails, where you use the blockchain to log into the email. You can then pull all the data together from all over the world, sitting on different servers and just different bytes, not necessarily sitting in one server by itself. So no one can read your emails, no one can look at them whilst you're not on it. You've got the password, you do your thing, and suddenly you're got a private email and you've got a bit of your privacy and self-sovereignty back. So things like that, storage is, I think, super important.
Oh, sounds amazing. Can't wait for that to happen as well. So who do you prefer, Alexa, Google, Cortana, or Siri?
I don't like any of them. I just feel like they put a microphone in my house and I listen to everything I'm saying.
You're the decentralized guy, no wonder you don't like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the fact that you can go talk to something that says, hey, where's the nearest restaurant, Siri? Or I'm really dying for a panna cotta. Can you organise to tell me where the nearest panna cotta restaurant is, or whatever? And that's super awesome. I got to admit, I love the technology that is Google. I just don't necessarily love what they do with my data.
Yep. And as a beginner, for the beginner audiences, what is some practical tips or items that you can share for them to either read or watch to get more understanding about Ethereum or decentralization, about project management or anything in this space?
Yeah, so Ethereum's actually been pretty poor up until now with regards to documentation. Even the website hasn't been updated for years. Yes. it's something the Ethereum Cat Herders are looking at the moment to try and fix. But one of the great places actually that does have quite a lot of information and is a active community for discussion is a thing called ETHub. It's run by a couple of guys, Eric and Anthony, and that's, I guess, a community initiative. And that's what I love about Ethereum. Ethereum is not about the Ethereum Foundation doing everything in it. Ethereum being decentralized, it's about the community, and the community is actively involved. I'm a community member. I stuck my hand up and said I'd like to do more, and these guys have said the same thing. They said one of the things we're seeing is that there's no information for people to get involved in Ethereum, just from the basic documentation of what is Ethereum and how does it work, to all the way through to if I'm looking for a specific area of code, where can I find that area of code? So ETHub is a great resource. In time, the Ethereum Cat Herders are going to be looking at creating, if you're a developer, a bit of a repository so that it allows people to find some good data on where to get some great tools like Truffle Suite or the like, or Zeppelin, and what they could possibly do to develop on Ethereum. There are some really great companies out there like Consensus. Consensus is a independent company, but they're just doing incredible work in the Ethereum space, got an incredible number of projects. There's always jobs being advertised there. And so if you wanted to get actively involved and get a paying job, that's probably one of the better places to go and look for work. Otherwise, there are constantly jobs being advertised on AngelList and so on. So, but yeah, that's probably my.
What if you're a non-developer? Where would you suggest people go? If you're in the wider audience, you're interested in emerging tech, or you're interested in project management. Where do you think? Like, is it Twitter? Is it LinkedIn?
So I guess there are a couple of good commentators in the space. I mean, obviously yourself, it's nice to watch the videos.
Why, thank you.
But other guys too, like there's a guy called Crypto, there's Crypto with a zero. He puts out daily YouTube information, and he does it from a variety of reasons, from fundamental, looking at what the technology is doing, as well as from an investment perspective, if you wanted to get into that, which I think a lot of the people at the moment are actually into. There's also, from an Australian perspective, Nuggets News. He does a pretty good job too with regards to that. He's a great evangelist on a whole lot of technologies, not just Ethereum. Other than that, as I said, ETHub, if you're specifically wanting to focus on Ethereum. If you're looking to delve a little deeper, there's good Reddit forums where you can go and have a look. Obviously, there's the Ethereum Reddit forum, but if you wanted to do investment trading, there's ETHTrader, and they talk about all the different projects there too, even from a fundamental perspective, not just an investment perspective, because the community loves this stuff. The community is super excited. We're building a whole new world that's going to change the world and the way we operate to a point where is it possible for society to live without nations? Is it possible for society to live without a job and be, if you like, a person who finds gigs, the gig society as they call it, where in the afternoon or in the morning you're a dog walker, in the afternoon you're doing some accounting for some guy over in California. Just trying to make life a lot more interesting, I guess, and move away from this idea of 9 to 5, slogging your life out for the man.
Fabulous. Well, there's some great suggestions there that you can see. And how do we find more information about you, Brent?
Yes, so if you'd like to find out more about the Ethereum Cat Herders, we do have a Twitter account, @ethcatherder. And if you look that up, you can start following us. We also have a website, ethereumcatherders.com, and that's got some really good links to our Getter channel and so on, so people can get involved. If you're a project manager, it's probably a really nice space to go and listen to all the issues and what's going on in Ethereum, and maybe start actively getting involved with that. If you want to do anything, we're probably going to, in the next couple of months, we're going to start pushing out things to the community for them to actively start working on. One of the first things is looking at the developments of the Ethereum website to make that a little bit more infotainment, if you like, because it's outdated. But this is really what we're trying to do. We're looking at the low-hanging fruits, and we're trying to knock that off first, and then we're moving into the bigger issues, such as hard forks and so on, and hopefully get people along to help us with that too.
Wow, it sounds like there's a lot of interesting work coming up. And yeah, I mean, I really appreciate your time today. I think we talked a lot about lots of different things. But, you know, I'm really excited about the whole decentralized space, as you are. And thank you again so much for your time, Brent. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for talking, and hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I really appreciate you asking me to talk here. And I do love what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.